Chris Coons, Democrat of Delaware, who I guess this is still a big local issue in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania environment. And apparently a lot of police officers from Philly live in Delaware. And Coons wrote, I embrace the proposition that an attorney is not responsible for the actions of their client.
Mighty noble of you.
Yeah, wow. That is.
I embrace the basic understanding of
understand.
all legal practice.
Of course, every Republican voted against this guy. And that was to be expected. You had Fox demagoguing this in a Willie Horton-style fashion, apparently, for the past couple of weeks. There were 7 Democrats. Coons was one of them. The decades-long public campaign by others, however, to elevate a heinous cold-blooded killer to the status of political prisoner and folk hero has caused tremendous pain to the widow of Philadelphia police officer Daniel Faulkner and shown a great disrespect for law enforcement officers and families throughout our region. I'm sorry. I don't get it. There's no logic here. He's just got to be saying, Coons has just got to come out and say, look, I'm a horrible coward in this situation. I'm afraid of the political costs because of the efficacy of those on the right to demagogue this. So I am spineless, and I'm not going to expend any political capital on doing what is obviously right and correct. Mark Pryor of Arkansas, Joan Walsh of Montana. They're in a state apparently where Obama didn't do very well. They also should come out and say that too. I have no convictions whatsoever. Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, same dynamic. There were 2 others, I guess, Democrats. Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, Joe Manchin of West Virginia are the other ones. Understand, I don't think all of these guys were in the Senate at the time. Certainly the many of the Republicans were. John Roberts was confirmed after providing legal defense for a mass murderer. Free defense, pro bono. Was executed for murdering several people in Florida. Again, I don't think that should have been an issue whatsoever. But, of course, because Debo is not white, and because he's going on the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, it's much easier to demagogue. I mean, this is what we were talking about. Who was the guest that we had on a week or 2 ago when we were talking about the idea of demagoguing race?
Professor Ian
Haney. This is a perfect example of racial demagoguery in about 5 different ways. And it's a perfect example of the right demagoguing on this and some conservative Democrats, some Democrats who would have to answer, I guess, tough questions in Pennsylvania and Delaware. But how tough is it to say, in this country, everybody's deserving of a legal defense. Their legal defense was validated by the court. This was not a wild-eyed political mission that the Legal Defense Fund was on, because the court upheld their perspective on it. So this was a very specific case of someone being denied their civil rights.
Well, go back to what Chris Coons said. It's so disgusting because he's directly equating. There's this movement for a Mumia, and he's basically just saying that is totally indistinguishable from any type of legal counsel, period.
That's exactly what he said.
He ran in the opposite. Like, not only did he not do what you said, which would be the thing of integrity, he went out to out-demagogue the demagogues in his statement explaining his vote.
That's right.
It's demented.
It is demented. And, in many respects, it's also indicative of the lack of political cachet that that the president has. Right. I mean, this is what happens when you have a weak president and when you have one who is down in the polls. If Obama's poll rating was now 60 or 70%, at least 2 or 3 of those Democrats are not going to pull this. Nevertheless, it's an outrage. And then Heidi Heitkamp, in the height camp of hypocrisy. Heidi Heitkamp was one of the 7 who voted to block Debo Adegbile, who twice defended the Voting Rights Act in the Supreme Court as part of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Twice defended the Voting Rights Act in court. Supreme Court was to be confirmed for the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. Almost maybe an hour or two after Heidi Heitkamp votes against this guy because he was involved in writing an amicus brief, and the defense, not even the defense, I guess, defending the civil rights of a convicted cop killer whose jury instructions violated his civil rights. They won that appeal, so he went from being on death row to just life and parole. An hour after she votes against this guy because of that controversy, which I don't think is a controversy in North Dakota, frankly, she writes an email, a fundraising email, claiming that if there's one thing we should all be able to agree on, it's that every American deserves the right to vote. It's one of our most basic rights, but now it's under attack. She just blocked the nominee of a guy who argued in front of the Supreme Court on multiple occasions to defend that right. And she uses that issue as a fundraising appeal. Just the Heidi Heitkamp of hypocrisy.
Hydeocracy?
The height of Heidi Heitkamp's hypocrisy.
Heitkamperocracy.
She's part of the Heitkamperocracy. Yeah, really just stunning.
So let's punish. I like this. Let's polish off that fundraising email after the boss shoots down this black guy for chief of Civil Rights Division.
Yeah, probably after she shoots down probably arguably the most qualified person one could find in the entire
country. His resume is amazing. I mean, in fact, the case he won for Mumia is a sterling example of being a tough civil rights advocate.
Right.
He literally got blocked. It's like, you can't be head of Civil Rights Division. You're a civil rights lawyer.